Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Anime Yay or Nay. I'm TheOutbackAl.
I'm hot for justice.
I'm Chibi New.
And I'm NV Jitters.
And we're back after a short break. We had a bit of an issue last week that we, resolved now. But we're back, and we finished watching Paranoia Agent, and we watched 2 episodes of Magia Record, and we're caught up on things, and now we're going to talk about them. So, Paranoia Agent. We saw the end, and we saw where it all went. How are we all feeling?
It went a completely different way than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, he does that.
With Perfect Blue, I thought the twist made sense, but for this one, I don't know. It just... We'll talk more about it, but I just felt like...
It's a bit more... I think it's a bit more Paprika-esque.
I guess. It just went... I just thought, the first, so many episodes was setting up one thing, and the final 3 episodes went a completely... what the hell kind of direction.
I kind of like that. He's kind of like a David Lynch of anime. A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to make comparisons between, we do, me and Yin will do this occasionally where we'll everyone says that Miyazaki is like Walt Disney or something. And, who else do you compare who to? It's like, well, yeah, I could kind of compare Satoshi Kon to David Lynch a little bit. This is his Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks.
But we should get into what happened. So, Gav, you didn't say what you thought a little bit.
I felt the same way as Envy about it. That it was completely in a different direction than what I thought too.
Alrighty. Maybe we should hit it then. We watched... Which ones did we watch? We watched...
10, 11, 12, and 13.
11, 10 through 13. Okay, so... 10 was kind of interesting in that we got to see the animation process a little bit.
I actually really liked that episode. I think it was my favorite out of the 4 episodes we watched this week, or the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I liked it. It's kind of informative, and also kind of you kind of feel like you've seen this sort of group dynamic before, and you can kind of familiarize with it. Everyone's been part of a group project where it's some people are doing more, some people are doing less. Everyone kind of has that job, but it's yeah. So, and it also still gives us that creepiness and that kind of encroaching dread throughout the entire thing. I mean, it follows. They're making a Moromi cartoon anime, and we're watching the production team create it, and you get little snippets of who each of the people in the anime production are, and kind of what their job is and how it all fits together. And yeah, that was interesting to see. It's I was actually a little bit reminded of One Manga Day whenever we were playing that and going through well, this person does this thing and this is how they do it, and they work with this person to do the yada yada yada. I'm like, this is very informative. Thank you for this.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. But yeah, we're who's the main guy we're following? The production coordinator.
I think he's the project manager or something like that, or production manager.
Yeah. I think they call him the production coordinator because he's the one in charge of the schedule. And if you're behind on the schedule, you don't make the deadline, and deadlines are very important for that thing. Thankfully, not for a bridge series. But yeah, we're kind of following him, and he's not the most competent of guys. And we're kind of watching him. It's kind of told sort of flashbacky style. A little bit Christopher Nolan-esque, which is kind of another director I might compare Satoshi Kon to for a couple of reasons. Where he's driving the final tape to the TV studio for airing, and but it's also flashing back to all the mishaps they had during production of the first episode, and we're running around seeing all the different cast of characters, and he's screwing up constantly. I think he's remembering all this stuff because he's falling asleep at the wheel a lot because he is overworked. Everyone's overworked. because it looks like a small team. But yeah, I'm like, oh, I have felt that before. Like that moment of like you feel yourself kind of slipping, you got just smack your face, keep yourself awake because you're gonna die otherwise. Meanwhile, he's also being chased by a little slugger. Everyone's being chased by a little slugger in this because little slugger's just everywhere. And I mean, who's more backed into a corner than people who got to meet a deadline, right?
Yep.
But yeah, so they're working on it. And they're having problems here and there because like every now and then, like whenever something comes up and like we really need this person to do this thing, suddenly they get hit by a little slugger. And yeah, and it's like at a certain point they just stop caring about whether anyone's okay, and they're just like, oh god, we need to do something else now. We'll just take what they have and we'll work with it because we have a deadline to hit. And like people don't even care like when they see a dead body of like someone and they're just like, yep, I'll just take whatever you had and we'll move on. Don't even care anymore. I am completely broken inside. And I mean, eventually it just gets to the point where the production coordinator straight up bashes, not the director, who was the other guy? He's the production something else. I think he was like the producer or executive producer or something of the thing. Yeah, he goes a little slugger and bashes the guy over the head just so he can send in the final tape and save the day. But the rest of the production team's dead. And then the little slugger gets him.
Yep.
And then, while he's like dying on the side of the road, the people from the news or the network show up and they're like, "Oh my God, here it is! We found it!" And they just take the tape from his cold, dead hands. And they're like, "Thank God we found this!" And they go put up Moromi. That's pretty much the whole episode. It's just people spiraling out of control, getting taken out one by one. And yet also informing you of how difficult it is to animate things. And all the different little intricacies that go into it. Very interesting episode. What'd you guys think of it?
I thought it was interesting. I thought that, he was very unreliable. And
Yeah.
it was very funny to watch everyone yell at him.
I mean, it's like, I feel like certain elements could have been prevented, like him tripping over the wire or whatever that like knocked out that guy's computer. I'm like, why did you put it up on that particular thing that's in the middle of the walkway, or why didn't you tape it down or something?
Yeah,
Like some of these things could be prevented.
that's true.
Then again, he did watch the guy meticulously make that background art, and then he folds it
Yep.
like a complete imbecile.
Yeah, that was dumb.
There's no way that you get that far in animation and not realize if this is the final product, you have to keep it as clean as humanly possible. I don't know. He's not a smart man.
Nope.
But
No.
yeah, he evades Little Slugger for a while though.
But like whenever Little Slugger goes back in the back of his car and he's just smiling and it's like, oh gosh.
Yeah, he wants him bad.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. Have anything else to say about this one, or should we move on? Because the next one's also pretty interesting. Yeah, so we've been hearing more about Little Slugger, and he's growing in size, and he's turning into a straight up demon. Or at least that's what the rumors are. And if this is going again, because I thought before that this was kind of going off American Gods logic, where it's like the more you talk about something, the more you worship something or like feed
more
into
power
it, the stronger it
gets.
gets.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he is turning into a troll. Like, not like an internet troll, like an actual, like, troll, Oni looking monster. And he's coming for... We were following this lady who's at the hospital. She's suffering from some sort of life-threatening illness and needs an operation, but that she doesn't have the money for it. So I'm like, okay, well, you're dead. You're backed into a corner, and Little Slugger's going to beat the shit out of you. And that kind of is the setup. because Little Slugger is waiting for her when she gets home, and she's like, "Whoa, you think you're here to kill me? But guess what? I ain't backed into no corner. I don't want a way out. I don't want to die. I used to, but now I don't." And then the entire episode is really just her telling Little Slugger about her life and telling him off.
Yeah.
Which very ballsy of her. But everything's got to be connected in the show, and we see that she's actually the wife of the lead detective from the Little Slugger case, who is now working as a security guard on construction sites.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to see him again. We're also seeing the other detective, who's kind of, I guess, become a vagrant with a radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not well.
Maniwa / Liam O'Brien.
Liam O'Brien has gone from D&D to LARPing. But we'll talk about that later.
I imagine these last few episodes were the most fun for him in the recording studio back then.
Oh,
I
yeah.
have to imagine, yeah. But yeah, so they're kind of cutting back and forth with the detective's wife and the detective's new occupation and all that sort of stuff. And they're like going back and forth, like, oh, we used to do all this sort of stuff, and then this happened and that happened and all this. Apparently, the wife has she's had it bad for a while. Kind of like she's just kind of frail and her heart's not good, and she wasn't able to have kids with the detective because her body couldn't handle it, which makes her sad. And like she has a couple reasons where she's like, yeah, I'm a burden on my husband, and she's like said as much to him. But then it got to the point where he's like, you can't ever say that. The only reason that I do what I do is for you and for you and me to be happy, because we can be happy together. It doesn't matter if we can't have kids or whatever. It's he's a good guy. He's a very good guy. And she's a good lady. And they're good together. And they help give each other strength, and the strength of their relationship is why she's not going to let Little Slugger kill her, because she's willing to face her own reality and the reality that's been put upon her without looking for a way out, like everyone else has in this show, which is a lot. That's a lot of character right there. I'm paraphrasing a lot of stuff, and I'm condensing a lot, but I actually really liked this episode.
Me too.
Yeah, this is just because like all the other ones, like, not to say that they weren't interesting, but all of them basically dumbed down to the exact same thing of like, my life is having some bad stuff happen. I either can't or don't want to deal with it. Little Slugger, come beat me over the head. And this lady was almost that. She was like, and she has some real shit that she's dealing with. Not to say that no one else had real shit they were dealing with. She's got some serious like life and death shit she's dealing with. And she's still like, nope, I am going to face this head on. We're going to do what we can. I'm going to get the surgery. I'm not going to just give up. We're going to just keep pushing forward and persevering. I'm like, that's like, I think that's the one word that can describe this episode the most: perseverance. Because like even after life dealt this couple just the worst hand, they're working 3 jobs. They're like figuring out what to do with the medical thing. They're just still going. They're like, you know what? It's our lives, and we're going to live them to their fullest that we can. And like that's really commendable. And that's why Little Slugger can't touch it. Well, he kind of takes a swipe at her, but he can't kill her. He can't do it. But we do get a weird reveal at the end a little bit. We find out that Little Slugger is the same as Moromi, the dog. Because they're both an escape from reality. One is more of the nicer, like, kind of comforting escape, and one is more of the violent escape. But, like, they're both ways of people not dealing with the world around them. Because we're also kind of seeing, like, in the background and on the TV, Moromi is blowing up. the anime's gonna come out, and they're like selling dolls and all sorts of other stuff, and people are like using Moromi as like some form of comfort, so that they don't have to deal with their problems. The same way that they're like, oh, I got beat over the head, I can't do whatever my problems were, with Little Slugger. So it's like they're flip sides of the same coin.
I just had
Which-
a thought, but I
Yep.
well, no, I don't want to, because the way it will probably come out probably won't sound like good, but
Hey, make it sound bad. I have terrible theories throughout this entire show. If you've watched our old episodes, I'm always wrong.
well, I know like the Moromi like backpacks from the Happy Family Planning episode,
Yeah.
like how you just said that they were like considered like a symbol of comfort, and how the three of them like had that suicide pact, like
Yeah.
that was their thought for what would be a comfort to them, like that's what I
Yeah.
mean. Like, it sounds really, really horrible. I don't
Oh no, it is.
suicide's
It's
not
like
a
the
good thing at
whole-
all, but it's like that's from their
This whole
viewpoint,
show-
that's probably what that was.
Oh yeah, this whole show is like all about not dealing with reality and pushing your problems off on some sort of external force so that you don't have to deal with it. And like, there's two sides of that. You can use escapism through Moromi, or you can like allow yourself to just get hurt and incapacitated or killed so that you don't have to deal with anything, which is like, you could argue is also a thing about suicide. And I think like especially this episode had a lot of like, you know, don't commit suicide. This was
Yeah.
kind of like the opposite of that happy family planning thing. Because it was like, you know what? You do only have one life. You should try to cling on to it as long as you can and persevere as much as you can, even in the face of adversity. So I think this was a good. I really like that.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed episodes 10 and 11 because it was pointing to what I thought the show was going to end up being, but then episodes 12 and 13 kind of really shifted directions on what exactly Little Slugger really is.
I mean, it did and didn't at the same time, I think. Do we want to get into 11 and 12? They're kind of tied kind of closely together, so we might be able to just talk
You
about
mean
them
12 and
together.
13?
Or 12 and 13, yeah. Yeah, 12 is a little bit more about, what was the other detective's? Liam O'Brien's character.
Maniwa.
Maniwa, yeah, he has taken over the role of other Little Slugger and has gone pretty delusional after seeing everything, which to some degree I'm like, yeah, I can see that happening. You just saw the creation of a ghost yokai urban legend creature, and you know you're probably a little unstable and able to properly communicate with a schizophrenic, probably because you have some own deep-seated issues of your own. But yeah, he has taken on full I am the Knight of Justice quest mode thing, and he's talking to the old man in the hospital, trying to figure out like what do I do, how do I beat Little Slugger, because he's been fighting him on and off. Then he hears him say like follow the dancing rabbit or dance with the bunny or something, and it leads him to, we saw this guy before, that otaku dude who was with that prostitute. And all of his little figurines are alive, but he can't see them, and Liam O'Brien is like hallucinating that they're all telling him how to find the way to beat Little Slugger. And this is a trippy episode. Because they're like, I don't know what those glasses are that he has on, whether those are real things or not. I doubt they're real things, but like he can access the internet with like VR goggles or something, or augmented reality goggles. Google Glass. Do you guys remember Google Glass?
For like the 2
When that
years
was
that
gonna
it was
be a
out on the
thing?
market.
Yeah, like he essentially has those. and they're accessing the police database and all this sort of other stuff, and they find, like 10 years ago, that there was another case not related to Little Slugger, but like eerily similar, and of course who's involved. It's what's her face? Sakagi. Was that her name? The one who made Moromi, the first person to get attacked by Little Slugger. When she was a kid, she said that someone on rollerblades rolled up and attacked her with a bat and beat her dog to death. And yeah, the dog's name was Moromi, and it's the basis for the Moromi character, and oh my god, everything's piecing together and fitting into the truth of it all, which is a really convoluted and insane truth, I guess. But yeah, so Liam O'Brien goes to see the dad out in the middle of nowhere, and he's like, what happened? What happened to the dog? What happened? How did they never found the attacker? And he's like, dude, look, I knew she was lying. She was probably just like scared that I was gonna be mad about the dog, so she lied, and I just went along with it, and I carried around like a bat so that, you know, to be like, oh, I'm gonna find the guy who did it, blah blah blah, and like he's just trying to be a good dad. But like I don't know if it fed into her delusions or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like the first time that she used Little Slugger as a means of getting away from reality and not dealing with her own problems. And that's a lot of news, and so Liam O'Brien takes the bat and goes full schizo. He's like, it's an ancient sword that will help me defeat the demon. It's got like +2 to hit. And meanwhile, on the other side of town, the detective guy runs into Sakagi because she's running from Little Slugger because she's still on the hook for trying to create a new character. And people are really getting mad at her because she's not coming up with something new. Meanwhile, Moromi is like trying to be like, don't worry about it, it's Little Slugger's fault, just focus on me, and blah blah blah. It's trying to do the thing of like, just forget your reality, don't worry about it, it's okay, just escape with me. And her and the detective escape into what I have to assume is like 60s Japan, or like some sort of weird fantasy world of it, where you know, an old-fashioned detective is still needed, and, you know, she can just be a little girl with her dog and not have to worry about anything, and it's like escaping into the past, which I think a lot of people do, especially nowadays. I'm actually reminded of South Park. Does anyone know about the member berries?
Yeah, member berries.
Remember those? Remember the 90s? Remember this stuff? And yeah, I feel like, yeah, they took some member berries and are just, yeah, they're having a trip down memory lane for the most part, trying to escape their reality again. Yeah. And Liam O'Brien's like, dude, you can't be escaping reality. Bad things are happening, and Little Slugger's gone insane because he's now turned into a giant blob who's eating the world.
Yep.
That is the thing. That is a thing now. And this is what we were saying earlier. Like, it kind of turns it a little bit into the end of Paprika, where this shared delusion that was kind of manifesting itself in some form of reality as a supernatural entity is now so powerful that it is trying to take over the world.
Yeah, and that was the thing that I was mentioning earlier about it being different, because I always thought that Little Slugger was just people getting delusional or people having thing in their heads, and it was all going to be metaphorical, and it actually turned physical and physically affected the world, and I didn't know how I felt about that, because I understand, you know, everybody has a sense of paranoia, but like this one girl's action created basically a giant monster that destroyed all of Tokyo.
I mean, for the physical implications, it's a little insane, but at the same time, I don't know, there might be like certain elements in Japanese folklore that could be what it was based on, but like you could say that about like anything. I mean, like someone starts a rumor about something and it just kind of builds and snowballs over time, and it can have real world implications that are much larger than it initially started as. I feel like there's some sort of like lesson there for today with like fake news and misinformation that's spread around a lot, and like you can let these things snowball and turn into terrible things. But like I think that's a discussion for like a deeper discussion for later. But yeah, Little Slugger definitely, since the beginning, he was just like, oh, this is just a little thing, whatever. But then like so many people bought into it and like fed it. And if you want to go by again the American Gods logic, the more people buy into something and feed into something, the more real and more powerful it becomes. And I don't know if that is also a thing in like Japanese folklore and Shinto religion kind of thing. I know they believe that like in Shinto that like everything has a spirit, like even objects and items. But I don't know if like the more you acknowledge them, the more powerful they get. Like I know like a mountain spirit is a lot more powerful than the spirit of an umbrella or something. But why is that? Is because the mountain's larger? Is it because so many people rely on the mountain and the land and all that sort of stuff? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out the equation of how a god becomes powerful. But yeah, it's interesting. And Moromi itself is also very powerful. And like whenever Little Slugger starts coming after everybody, Moromi is trying to protect Sakagi and telling her to run, but it's also getting absorbed into the black blob that is Little Slugger, because it's also part of Little Slugger. And Liam O'Brien's like, don't worry, I have the ancient weapon, I shall save you. And he just gets clobbered. That was a little funny when they just like, I will fight him, and then he just gets smashed through a wall. But yeah, they're running and they're trying to get away, and I think part of their member berries delusion was that the detective was Sakagi's father, and eventually he's like they're running through the delusion to escape, and meanwhile, like while the rest of Tokyo is getting absorbed into the Evangelion ooze, the detective's wife like has a heart attack and is in the hospital. It's like has to go, like her spirit or whatever is going into the delusion and helping him remember, hey, this isn't real. This is you escaping. You told me that I couldn't escape. Neither can you. You know, you have to be able to deal with the world around you and what's happening. And it kind of over time snaps him out of his out of his delusions, and he's like, you know what? No, she's right. You're not my daughter. I'm not a cop back in the time when an old-fashioned detective was needed. I have to live with my reality. My reality kind of sucks right now, but it's mine. It's my life, and I have to deal with it. And that kind of shocks them out of the member berry sequence. But, you know, Sakagi's still like, no, it's Little Slugger's fault, Little Slugger's fault, Little Slugger's fault. And then eventually he, like, spills the beans, like, hey, no, listen, your dog died because you weren't paying attention. Now, you can live with that. It's not entirely, you know, it's like, I don't know whether they're saying it's her fault that it happened. She was a kid. I don't know how much you can blame someone for being irresponsible all the time, but it's like, it's something that happened to you. You need to live with it, and you need to own it a little bit. And you can't just, like, push it off on some sort of external force, especially one that's just a lie. You know, and she doesn't want to do that, but eventually she, like, kind of has to relive that moment again, which that scene was tough to watch.
Yeah, that was an effective scene, and considering, you know, it involves...
It's such a fucking good, like, adorable little puppy.
I know, and he just gets run over, and it's like, oh, you poor little thing.
Yeah. I mean, that was so sad. And But yeah, she's like, you know what? It was my fault. Little Slugger didn't do this. And at that point, Little Slugger's like, all right, guess you don't need me anymore. Goodbye. And the ooze goes away. Everyone's safe again, and Tokyo's fucking destroyed.
Yeah.
But, hey, they stop Little Slugger and Moromi, and people can now deal with the world that is theirs. That, they're not going to try to escape from it. And then, we cut to years later. It's like 2 years later, they had to rebuild it. It took them 2 years to rebuild the city. And we kind of get an opening, or like an ending, that's kind of similar to the opening of the series, where there's a bunch of people and they're like, oh, I did this, it's not my fault, and it's like this, and blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't do it if this didn't happen. And you're hearing all this stuff, and you're seeing the people walking around. Everyone's kind of going about their lives. People have moved on to, I think they're now obsessed with the little cat character. And over in the mental hospital, there's another white-haired person writing out stuff in the parking lot, but it's not the old man anymore. Now it's Liam O'Brien. And
yep.
He has a little thing at the end where he kind of does... I forget if the old man... Did the old man have like a little monologue in the beginning? I feel like he did.
He might have,
sure.
but most of it was just kind of gibberish.
Well, yeah, this one kind of was gibberish too. Liam O'Brien has a little thing at the end where he was kind of... I think the gist of it was basically like, life is kind of cyclical. It's a straight line that constantly moves forward, and everyone moves forward in their lives. But, with society and psychology and everything, like, some things just tend to circle back to the beginning, And we're kind of right back to where we started at the beginning of the series. People have gotten to the point where they're like, I don't want to deal with the world around me, so I'm going to do some form of escapism or some excuse to not deal with it. And everyone's kind of taken their places as the new individuals for this continuing story of, I don't know, cyclical something. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of different ways to interpret this show.
Yeah, I've
Satoshi
seen
Kon, he
some
just does that.
I haven't watched them, but I've seen a lot of people do video essays on YouTube about the ending of the series and what the whole series means, and I know it. I think what you've been describing has been pretty much the consensus on what they've been saying, and I don't disagree with you. It's just I kind of wish that they would have done it a little bit, and I'm not going to say better, but I thought that the message could have been what.
A little more coherent, spelled out a little bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, with this kind of show, when is anything ever, literally, laid out for you? It is meant to be discussed for interpretation.
Well,
it's Twin Peaks.
Well, I was just about to say, Chibi, you and Al have probably seen Twin Peaks. Does Twin Peaks tell its story like this?
I have not seen Twin Peaks. I just know of it.
I have seen Twin Peaks.
I should watch it.
The one thing... Could you state your question again? You cut out.
Yeah. Does Twin Peaks tell its story out of order or kind of incoherently like this show?
It basically tells it in, a linear line for the most part. The only thing that I will say, Season 1 was amazing. Season 2... they actually, sort of reveal who the culprit is, and it's kind of, it's not really what you expect, especially because it goes from being, a soap opera-y murder mystery kind of thing into, bringing in some supernatural elements that, no one probably saw coming.
You're just making this Paranoia agent sound like this is Twin Peaks for anime.
Kind of, but it's more... I guess I could say it's, a little more complicated because but there are, so many people involved with that.
Yeah, plus that series didn't, get a real finale.
I mean...
it got cut off, didn't it?
It did, but it came back with, a third sort of season, the Return to Twin Peaks, which was, a stars-only sort of show, and I only made it
Okay.
through to episode 8 of that. I still need to
It sounds
finish
like it was
watching
probably
it.
like the. Was it? I'm like wondering if that would be like whenever they brought back Arrested Development, and it was kind of like, I feel this a little bit, but it's also like, it's not the show anymore.
They introduced so many, like, new characters. Like, it is literally, like, they went from the end point of the show, which was basically, like, a character saying, like, something about 25 years later. And that show premiered, like, it was supposed to premiere around 25 years after season 2 ended. It got delayed for reasons. Sorry. My cat knocked over my
Houdini doing
microphone.
stuff?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
But, like, it's literally, like, hearkening back to what one of the main characters was talking about. So, in a sense, yeah, it is kind of like a Twin Peaks, but it's not really, like... Since I haven't finished that 3rd season, I can't really say, like, if it got a definitive end or not, but...
Okay.
But Season 2 did kind of have an end, but it was kind of like an unexpected sort of upsetting end, is from what I remember.
I think I've heard that. Again, have not seen the series, but I'm just, like, cursorily aware of that. I'm cursorily aware of a lot of things. So don't assume that whenever I say I know about, like, if I talk about something, that I know everything about it.
I just
I do
don't
need to watch
want
it
to
at some
give
point.
away that ending, because spoilers
No, and thank
for
you.
anybody who actually wants to watch it.
I feel like I should watch it. I
It's
mean,
good.
it's like, yeah. But yeah, so I don't know. Let us know in the comments what you think Paranoia Agent was saying by the end. Because I feel like, again, this is one of those things where it's like the end of Perfect Blue or something. You could interpret a couple different things from it. I feel like that's kind of the point. And the point is, like, to find the answer yourself a little. But yeah.
Yeah.
Are we a yay or an A on this overall? I'm interested to see what you guys say. I'm a yay personally. I enjoyed this series, but I know there was, like, a lot of stuff in there that would really turn some people off.
I'd say I'm a yay for the most part. Like, some things were kind of, I wouldn't say a bit much, but not necessarily, like, in my wheelhouse, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with GB on this one.
Like, what I would say would be, like, yeah, I'm glad I watched it, but would I have watched it, like, on my own? Like, if I had a choice? No. Definitely not.
You always have a choice, Chibi. You don't have to watch this if you don't want to.
But I want to participate.
That was the whole reason we stopped watching Bookworm.
But like I said, like, if I were to personally, like, pick an anime to watch, this would not be it.
Okay.
I guess overall, I'm a yay. Like, I rated it a 7 out of 10 on my anime list, but I will say I do enjoy
goodness.
Paprika and Perfect Blue a lot more. Like, I've only seen... Those are the only 3 things I've seen of Satoshi Kon. I need to see his other movies, but of the 3 things I've seen of him, this has been my least favorite.
If you're looking for something a little bit lighter, because Perfect Blue is probably his darkest film, I enjoyed Millennium Actress. I know Yin didn't as much, but I like it.
I want to see
I
the
think it's
remainder of
a
his
lot of fun.
movies. Like, I think
Yeah.
Millennium Actress...
You don't have a lot to go through.
Yeah.
Because he did not get the opportunity to make a lot of stuff. But what he did make was some really, really interesting things.
Yeah.
But yeah. But Chibi, speaking of, things that you would be willing to watch, should we talk about what we're going to be watching next week, because we're at a Paranoia Agent.
Yeah. So next week, we're gonna be finishing the second half of Tokyo Mew Mew. Starting
Yep,
with episodes 27, 28, 29, and 30.
Yep.
Yay!
We're going to be going like 4 episodes at a time, like before, because again, it's a 26 episode season, and overall they're pretty light. There's not going to have to be like a whole lot of like deep, like what's happening kind of stuff. My only thing that I'm like going into this as is like, it's not 4Kids anymore.
Nope.
And like most people be like, well, that's a good thing. I'm like,
No.
not when 4Kids was made the show really interesting.
Like, I will say,
It's like,
because I watched both. Like, I watched both sub and dub for the first half. Like, I will say I was far more entertained watching the 4Kids one. But as far as, like, where we're going to, like, pretty much be going with the story from here on out. And, like, granted, there's a lot of filler stuff that wasn't in the manga, as most magical girl animes do.
Yeah, I mean, we've all watched Shonen before,
But
so.
yeah, I would say this would probably be, like, way more true to, like, the actual mangas. And it's a good thing that we're getting back to it, because apparently they're now making new ones. Gosh,
Manga or
darn
anime?
it. Manga. Like, they've just released,
alright.
new chapters, because...
Well, hey, good for
Apparently
you
they
guys.
brought it
I know
back.
you guys are fan. I know you guys are fans of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a little disappointed because I'm like, I'm not going to get to hear all the, like, just out of nowhere funny lines that they gave. I'm not going to get to hear Queen Jellyfish anymore.
Nope.
Or, there was just some deliveries that were just perfect in that show.
They never bothered to dub the remainder.
Well, 4Kids
didn't
didn't get
get a thing.
licensing for it. So...
It's such a shame.
But I know it's been dubbed over in a lot of other countries using the 4Kids licensing. So, I don't know.
Yeah, but that's
There's
still
a
not
lot
in
of
English.
differences.
I don't know what that's going to help me with.
But that just means that
We'll listen to it in Italian.
they weren't going off of the original source material, is all that means. So, who knows? It could be a lot funnier. But I got really curious lately about, like, what all of their names are in all the different countries. So I'm going to have to go looking into that, because I remember some of them were kind of weird.
Do some research. We can find out, because they always do something, especially with like really popular shows and like kid shows, and there's always localization involved. So that's always interesting to kind of look at. But yeah, so next week we'll be doing 27 through 30.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see how everyone's doing after the big cocoon catastrophe that was happening.
Uh-huh.
But I think we have something else to talk about today, don't we?
Speaking of other magical girls.
We missed last week, so
Yeah.
we're doing 2 this week.
And also, I want to report that thing about this show being 26 episodes. Yeah, it turns out that was a lie. Apparently, the actual episode count is 13. So,
Oh, okay.
well,
that's
that's
fine.
more manageable.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. So we watched last week. We just didn't record. But so episodes 2 and 3, I didn't like as much as the first episode.
Nope.
But I think the end of episode 3 kind of hooked me a little bit, because it has some implications. But we'll get to that. What did you guys think so far? It's not for the reason you think, Envy. I know what you're laughing about.
Well, no, I know.
Houdini.
So what did you guys think of these episodes?
I really like them.
Houdini is very opinionated today.
Yeah, he's as I've said, he's not about the magical girls. But I thought they were funny. Also, like, they were like sort of sad, also cute. I don't know. It was I like them.
I just kind of found them boring.
I don't know. Like, it
Well, we should get
introduced
into-
more characters, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I'm wondering how many they're going to introduce us to is the only concern that I have.
Well, my hopes are that it's only a couple like these, because if you go through like what I'm assuming is like a very large plethora of characters from the game, it's going to be a very unfocused show. Like, so what happened? Let's get into it. Oh my goodness, Houdini, you hate this show this much.
Hang on,
I don't
guys.
understand. We haven't seen if it's even bad yet.
I'm gonna feed him so he'll stop crying. I'll be back.
Okay.
Y'all talk about the episode.
All right, so what happened?
Well, the main character finds out that, she may or may not have deleted her sister from existence, but she's trying to think, no, wait, you can't delete your sister. She's got to be around. It's just no one can remember her for some reason.
Yeah, weird scenario that you're in. But yeah, she goes back to Kamihama City, and I'm trying to remember for episode 2 how they all met up. Like she ends up like hitting up some witch stuff and all this other hootenanny, runs into these other magical girls, and they're taking on witches, and they are not necessarily like straight up watered down versions of the original characters, because I don't think you could have that, because the original characters for the most part are going to be in the show as well. We get Momoko, who is like a barbarian with a big sickle sword looking thing. She's pretty cool. And then you got the tsundere, Rena?
Yeah, I think it's Rena.
Yeah, and a little witch-looking one named Kaide. And they're not that interesting to me. I'm just going to flat out say it. I didn't find them super interesting or their story stuff. But yeah, apparently Rena and Kaide fight a lot, and they're always like, oh, our friendship's over, and then they make up, and then our friendship's over, and then we make up. And then there's like a mysterious rumor about a staircase that if you write the names of two people you want them to like not be friends anymore, you'll stop being friends, and if either of them try to reconcile, a chain monster will show up and take the person who wanted to make up. I'm like, okay, that's cool. That sounds like an actual real life
Yokai.
Yeah. I feel like we're running into a lot of those, like with Lil Slugger and now this one.
Urban legends.
But yeah, that's a cool little urban legend thing you got going on there. That's interesting. And I'm like, obviously it's a witch.
Yep.
We all saw that coming because it's real.
Yep.
But yeah, so Rena puts Kaide's name and her name on there, and then Kaide once again apologizes and is like, I'm sorry, and then she gets eaten by a chain witch. Not eaten. I shouldn't say that, but
Captured.
she gets taken.
Yeah.
And then episode 3 is about getting her back. And I'm like condensing this a lot because like I had some trouble paying attention because it's a lot of like just, here, I'm this person, and here's my character trope for episode 2. Which was kind of boring to me.
I think the biggest problem with shows like these is that you're trying to follow the main character's story while also trying to introduce so many different characters, and you only got 23 minutes of an episode,
Yeah.
So it can be hard.
I think
It can be done though.
I mean,
They
the
did
original
in the
last
Madoka.
series.
I mean, the
Yeah.
original Madoka made sense because it only introduced like 2 or 3 characters in an episode, so you got more time to develop with them. In episode 2,
Well-
you got 4 or 5 characters all at once, and you had to
like
try
the
and
thing
juggle between
is-
them.
The thing is like when it got to being like the core set of characters, we stayed with said core set of characters.
Yeah.
Since we now have so many more characters and it's getting a little side questy, it might be like the first several episodes of SAO all over
Funny.
again.
It's called Madoka Side Story, and we're getting into side quests.
I know. I
I mean-
don't mind, but at the same time, it's kind of like I really hope that they kind of get back on track at some point.
I'm gonna say this now, so I don't have to say it later. My main worry with the show is that it is going to rely solely on you having played the game. Like, you see this with certain, especially anime and certain shows that are based off of an existing property nowadays. It's like they don't do a whole lot to make you invested in the characters in the show because they're like, you read the manga, you played the game, you're already invested, we don't have to put effort into doing that. So, and I didn't play the game. I don't really have much intention to at this point because I'm not super into long mobile games. But if that's the case, this is not going to be a good show for me. Because, like, again, the first show didn't have anything to work off, so it had to work to make you care about Madoka, Sayaka, Homura, Mami, Kyoko, all of them, because it gave them, like, all this stuff and built up these emotional arcs for them, and then, like, just punched you in the gut every time.
Yeah.
And the emotional gut punches work because we had connection to them because of the storytelling. If they're hoping that the audience is simply going to be connected to people because they played the game and played these characters, I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah.
Now, I'm saying that now because that's just kind of something I've seen with certain anime.
Also,
I'm not saying for sure that's going to happen, but I'm just hoping that that's not the way it's going to go.
Also, quick thing here. Was this series actually directed or at least created again by Gano Robochi?
He had nothing to do with it, apparently. We were wrong about that, too.
Okay. Yeah, no, so we're not going to get any death in this series, so it's not going to be quite as crushing.
Oh, I already knew that. It's based on a game where you unlock characters to play as. There's no way you can kill off anyone important. And if you do, they're going to come back later. I don't know. I very much doubt we're going to have any huge stakes going on with this.
Well, Chibi, you
But
and
that's-
Gav played the mobile game, right? Is the story of the episode of the series so far following the story of the game?
I haven't even gotten that far in the game.
Oh, never mind.
So, I mean, Gav might know, but I don't.
I haven't seen anything with the Chain Witch.
Oh,
Okay.
I think they might just even, like, be taking the characters and just, like, made a show with the characters. Maybe
Okay, if
they're
that's
not
the case,
exactly
then great.
following the lines, the storyline of the game.
I want to throw this out there. People in the comments, please do not tell us what's going to happen in the game or what will be translated to the show and that. We like to go into this without knowing a whole lot of stuff. Back to discussion. Yeah, so
Oh my gosh.
at least for this one, and maybe it's going to be one of those things where we're going to stick around with Rina and Kaide a lot more, and we're going to actually get some emotional investment in them, but, like, their story just felt really generic, and I've seen this in every other anime. Oh, we're friends, but you're a tsundere, so we fight a lot, and then, you know, we make up, and I'm like, I've seen this so many times.
I feel like they're just trying to get all of the central characters, like, lined up for us, because we have Iroha, obviously Yachio, then we have the coordinator, we've got, I believe I've seen Kaede
Who I think was just
and
introduced in this
Reina,
episode,
maybe.
right?
If it's not on the promotional art for the poster, it might be, like, for some of the promotional stuff for the game, and then we still have, I think, maybe one or two other characters to get introduced to before we have, like, our full lineup of people.
I'm kind of hoping those people are going to come in like Kyoko or the 6th Ranger in every season of Power Rangers, where it's like, okay, we've established our core people, and then the person comes in to stir the pot a little bit. I think it'd be better off with that. But, yeah, I don't need deep storytelling, like, by episode 2. I was just hoping for something a little more interesting than, like, because, like, the conflict seems about as interesting as some of the wishes that we were complaining about before. Or it's like, they're the most basic-ass wishes.
Like, I feel like they just took the Madoka, like, property name and just kind of were like, okay, let's make a magical girl show. Because we can.
See, like, how you're saying that kind of feels a little bit how episode 2 was, but at the same time, I'm like, you take the Madoka Magica property, it can be a very expansive world.
No, it can,
And
for sure.
if you try, you can do a lot with it. And so far in these 2 episodes, I didn't see a ton. Again, at the end of episode 3, we'll get to that, but I think there's something there. And I'm interested in seeing that.
Yeah.
So, but we should get back to, like, what the plot.
Yeah.
They meet up with, we called her, like, Kyosaya last time, because she was, like, this blue, but, like, long hair, used a spear, and, like, we were, like, essentially being like, oh, she's, like, Sayaka and Kyoko's daughter. Really, she's the Homer of the show.
Yeah.
What was her name?
Yachio.
Yachio. Okay. So they bring in Yachio, who I guess now she's willing to work with people. But they're like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to recreate the events of the Chain Witch attack. And I'm like, oh, that's smart. You know, do the urban legend so that the urban legend comes out and then you can fight it. I'm like, all right, yeah, that's pretty smart. Good for you. And they do it. It doesn't work because it's not sincere. They didn't actually have a fight. They didn't really break up, and they aren't actually reconciling. So it's a smart enough witch to be like, yeah, I know what I'm being lied to. But then they're like, okay, Rena, you gotta say some stuff, and she's like, but I don't forgive Kaede. I don't whatever, and she's just being like this tsundere. Like, it is emotional stuff, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know you. It's like, I'm introduced to you 5 minutes ago, and then it's like, it's an emotional dump. I'm like, I haven't had time to actually care about you yet. I feel like had this particular thing occurred later in the series, this might actually be more impactful. But in either case, it works. They get in. They start fighting the staircase chain witch. It's a bell.
Yep.
They find Kaede. They fight. They make up. They do all the stuff. They beat the witch, and it's destroyed. We also got to see all of their transformation sequences.
Yep.
Which shows a little bit about some of the personality stuff that they have. Like, at least in my opinion, it does. We didn't really get to see Kaide's transformation, but like, Momoko's like fiery and like has fire and barbarian like looking things going on with that. Discount Homura, not Discount Homura, new series Homura, because Discount Homura disappeared.
Yeah.
She in someone's head?
Maybe, possibly.
Maybe she's the sister. Weird. Anyway, new Homura, Yachio. She's like water-based, kind of. And I don't know if that's going to be like sort of she's adaptable, she's like flowing, or she's cold, or like, you know, there's a couple different things you can interpret there.
Calm.
Still like water. Very Bruce Lee. I like it. We have Rena's, which there's a lot of mirror stuff, which goes with her ability to transform into people, but at the same time, I think also works as kind of like, I don't know, we might see like it connect to her character a little bit, which will be interesting. Like she might not have so much of a sense of self for herself.
Like, I feel
like
for Iroha, like when she's like falling down the building, and
I wanted to bring that up.
Like, but she ends up falling into like the sort of self in the cape. Like, it's kind of like she needs to like come into herself.
Do you mean like she had to take a leap of faith?
A little bit, yeah. She like,
we keep making Assassin's Creed's joke, and she transforms by doing one of the iconic things from the game.
like she still like has to like find herself to become her magical girl self. I don't know.
Yeah,
I might be interpreting that wrong, but
no, I'm open to that. I'm open and interested to see how like some of these work, because I think the mirror thing might have something to do with like Rena's personality, because she clearly doesn't like herself.
Yeah.
So maybe she tries to reflect the world around her so that people will like her.
I think she tries to, like, reflect other people. And then when she's reflective of them, like, she will basically say what she thinks their views of her are.
Yeah, because, like, they said, oh, whenever you're sad, you turn into Momoko. Probably because Momoko's a lot more confident and can deal with things. So I'm wondering, and, like, again, this is entirely interpretive, and I'm just pulling this out of my ass just from some visuals. But if this is how it goes, that's going to be interesting to see, because it's not like that. Like, that's an interesting sort of character that you can have an arc with and stuff like that. We haven't seen it yet. We just know she's a tsundere, kind of bitchy person. But, you know, if we can explore why, I'm going to be interested in this person. We just have to get there. But yeah, what else I want to talk about? We brought up Assassin's Creed stuff again. It's just, I'm wondering how many do you think they actually, like, ripped off Assassin's Creed a little bit, or do you think this is just coincidence?
I'm honestly not sure. I think they probably wanted to get away from the more fanciful, kind of fluffy looking Madoka and give someone who looks a little more different, like someone who, like, is on a quest.
I'm fine with that.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think every magical girl has their own aesthetic, and I think that's definitely good. You know, because each of their powers is kind of unique and tied to who they were as a person and their wish and all that sort of stuff. So, like, you can even see it in, like, the original series, because, like, their powers, what they did, what their wish was, all that sort of stuff. You can kind of see it reflected in their outfits and their powers. Like, each one was very... Because, like, of course Madoka's going to look cutesy. She's the cutesy person. But, you know, Sayaka ended up looking like Zoro. It's like, there's reasons for that. Kyoko looks a certain way. Like, Mami looks a certain way. I mean... Yeah, Homura looks simple and straightforward because that's how she fights and how she does stuff. Mami looks like a musketeer. Actually, I think she's based on a German.
Yeah, she's based on
gunner.
Like the German motif, sorta.
Yeah, each of them has a motif, and I like that. I do like that you can have a lot of different interpretations for what your characters can look like. And I think that's really great because, like, Sailor Moon's cool, but they all have the same uniform in different colors. Mm-hmm. It's a little boring after a while. This is an interesting world because everyone has their own unique style and flavor. But yeah, so they defeat the witch, and here's where we're getting to what I really found interesting. It did not have a grief seed.
Nope.
Which, as we all know, witches have grief seeds. So was this a witch, or was it something else? This is new. This is interesting. This is stuff we have not seen before.
Typically, those that, like, do familiars drop grief seeds? I don't believe that they do.
Not.
So
they do not. But a familiar that big
well, think about it this
should have
way.
already turned into a witch and created a grief seed.
Well,
I mean, that's because, like, if I'm remembering correctly, that's what Kyoko said in the original show, was like, you know, you shouldn't kill familiars. You should wait for it to grow into an actual witch. That way you can get a grief seed.
Yeah, but I'm thinking if that was just a familiar, like, familiars follow around witches, would the witch then
they can
possibly
break off
be much
on their own.
bigger?
Well, that was what I was going to say, but at the same time, they were also mentioning this thing has no magical residue or signature until it's activated, which means it's not like any other witch or familiar. So what was it? It acted like a witch, it fought like a witch, but it doesn't work like a witch in the same sense.
Maybe it's a different kind of entity. I mean, when Madoka went God mode and basically made it so magical girls couldn't turn into witches, she also, like, her universe made different sorts of things. Like, there were the wraiths.
They made wraiths instead.
And then in the fake one where we had a rebellion, they had nightmares. So
the world will come up with a way to deal with the emotional distress of the world and manifest it as magical monsters. But The thing is, Madoka's not a god yet.
No.
We're still technically in the timeline before god mode happened, so we're still working with witches. Which means that this is something else is going on. And we also had that thing at the end. Mammy showed up.
Yep.
Mammy's there.
Yeah.
That's
Mammy.
a big moment for people. And there was a real QB who was like, "There's no QBs in Kamihama City," and because like as soon as we walk in, we shut off.
Yep.
And they're like,
Except for
"We don't
that
know
tiny
why."
one.
Yeah, the
Which
baby
no one's
QB.
been able to see except for Assassin's Creed. So I'm like, that's weird. There's something that these universal observers can't observe.
Yep.
And we got witches who don't work like witches and don't give off grief seeds. And we got an influx of super powerful witches and super powerful magical girls in this one spot. Something weird is happening. Something is off about all this, and it's different from before, and like I'm interested to see what happens. Mammy seems very intense.
Yeah.
I want to say that. And I feel like I'm going to be very wrong when I say this, but I have a small theory about that. Because they were bringing up, like, something is gathering powerful witches. I'm like, that is dangerous, but at the same time could be very advantageous if you want a lot of power. If you're a powerful witch who can control other witches, you could have an army of witches. Awesome. If you're a magical girl who could take out a bunch of witches at once, if you gathered a lot together, all those grief seeds, you're going to be very powerful. Like, this place is basically a giant stockpile of plutonium, and someone is gathering it for a reason. And I'm interested to find out what.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of that? Because I have one theory so far. It's probably terrible and bullshit, but
I mean,
what do you guys think first?
It would make sense, but at the same time, it's just kind of like, I'm wondering who they're gonna shoehorn in to be the one who's gathering all the power. If not, maybe the coordinator at this point. But that would just be my thought.
It depends on how much we're going to get to see of the coordinator. Might be a suspect. My thought was Mammy is doing it.
Even though it's like the first time that she's like showing up.
It's the first time we've seen her here.
Yeah. But it sounds like QB is specifically asking her to go and check it out for him.
Yeah. Well, you would trust like the top magical girl from some city to go and check out what's going on. But, you know, doesn't mean... Have you guys ever seen The Departed?
No.
No.
Okay, so it's a movie about police, investigators, the mob, and the police have an informant. They planted a mole in the mob, and the mob has an informant, like a dirty cop, on the police force. And the dirty cop rises through the ranks so much that he gets put in charge of finding the mole in the police force. He's hired to investigate himself. Like, because he's the guy. If Mammy was powerful enough to start gathering witches on her own, who else would they send in to investigate who's gathering witches on their own? Like, it's going to be the top person. So...
Well, I'm even just wondering, like, because...
I feel like so many people are going to be pissed off at me.
The coordinator says that she's adjusting people's soul gems.
Yeah, that's suspicious as hell, but you're being suspicious that early on?
I don't know.
Mean, that's a bait and switch to me.
That, like, if she's the one who's making them far more powerful so they can take on the witches that are already there, like, who's to say that the magical girls, once they fall into despair, are the ones who are becoming those powerful witches? Like, simply because she's
well, yeah,
the one
we know how
pulling
that
the
works,
strings.
but yeah.
But that's just
that's a possibility,
my
but
theory. But
I just feel like that's too easy. Like,
Well-
oh, of course the person who's making everyone strong wants to eat strong witches or something. I'm like looking for something out there. But then again, maybe they're going to be lazy and just go with the most obvious thing.
I don't know. For some reason, I have a feeling the series might go the lazy route. Just saying. And I really
You're probably
don't
right.
want them to go the lazy route. But with how we're going right now, and since it's not a Gen Urobuchi Madoka
You're
series,
right.
then it probably is going to go the lazy route.
Oh, I was really hoping to see Mammy be the bad guy out of nowhere. That'd have been fun.
I'm sorry.
Did you guys ever read what the hell was it called? I forget what it was called, but it was a short manga about, it was like a comedic Homura manga where it's some of her adventures in some of the random timelines she went to, and some of them are wildly out there with like the differences. And one of them was a fascist dictatorship that was controlled by Mammy. And she had risen to power because she sucked all of the power from Mammies of the other multiverse universes to herself, which it explains, one, why so many Mammies die, but it also, you know, she's super powerful, and she's like, tea is now 6 times a day, and everyone has to wear little hair curls like I do, and all that sort of stuff, and it's played up for laughs, and yeah, I get that it's played up for laughs, it should be, but at the same time, she is one of the toughest magical girls out there.
Yeah.
She really only died because she got distracted for a minute. Like, I think otherwise she could have taken that witch that ate her in episode 3. I'd be interested to see if she was a villain. I mean, we've had antagonistic magical girls before, but have we ever, like, I think it'd be really cool to see a magical girl as the bad guy. Other than Homura for once. I don't know. Chibs, you're probably right.
I mean...
Probably right, and it's going to be the obvious villain is obvious. But, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll both be wrong, and it's just a super witch or a rogue QB. A rogue QB could be cool, too.
Ooh.
They're all a hive mind, but what would one do if they weren't part of the collective? Would they evolve differently? Like, I feel like this whole city is isolated for a reason because they want to see how things will evolve without outside influence.
That could be it.
Like, how do witches change without interference from incubators? How do incubators work without the hive mind? You know, what will magical girls do in this situation? It's like, I think it's like this weird sort of isolated evolution thing. Like Australia. Things evolved there because they had no connection to the outside world.
I'm wondering if, like whoever set it up, like, so incubators can't, like, come in afterwards. Like, from what it sounds, all the magical girls there are all transplants. Like, they all have to come from outside because Cubase can't get in there.
Yeah.
So.
But why? Like, what are they trying to do in that city? Someone's trying to do something in that city. We know that much. And, you know, I feel like probably anything we come up with is going to be more interesting than what's actually going to happen, but maybe we can hold out hope. This is like the second time they've used this property, and it's a good property that has a history of interesting and, like, impactful storytelling. So maybe we can hold out hope.
Maybe.
I don't know. So far, this is still a yay for me. What about everybody else?
Same.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to want to watch it through to the end.
Cool. All right. Oh. Now I'm tired. All right, so next week, what are we watching? We're watching Mew Mew 27 through 30.
Yep.
We're watching Magia Record, episode 4. We'll see how things move going forward. Maybe we're right, maybe we're wrong. We're probably wrong. We're always wrong about what we think is going to happen. Hey, maybe it's the sister.
I mean,
maybe she went God mode whenever she got erased. I don't know. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Oh, and don't forget next week to also watch a movie. What is it called? It's called Tiger and Bunny: The Rising, because that's our movie for the month.
Yep.
And then, yeah, we'll see you all then. Bye-bye.
Hey.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon for notifications. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like, and if you haven't already, check out some of our previous episodes, our daily gaming videos, or our parody series Madoka Magically Abridged. See you next time!